Welcome to Chris Parkin Shooting Sports. A lot of people message me and say, how do I get into shooting? Well, one of the great ways into shooting is air guns, and another simple way to get into shooting is air pistols. Now, this is a Hatsan Supercharger which just arrived with me yesterday, and I'm going to take this out shooting this afternoon. But what I want to do is a little bit of a different kind of video, because I want to go through how a gun like this comes with a really good instruction manual, and this instruction manual goes through a lot of the details about how to use the gun. Now, I'm sure you're all busting to watch the pistol shot first, because this is a break barrel air pistol, so I can't fire it in here at the moment, but obviously you'll see that on the video afterwards. So essentially you've got a shrouded barrel, you've got a foresight, a rear sight. It's a break barrel gun, so it breaks in half like that. You fold it all the way down to cock it, the pellet goes in the breech, and then you're ready to shoot. It's an automatic safety catch, and the safety catch can also be used manually as well. So when you cock the rifle, the safety catch will come back like that, and then when you're ready to fire, you push it forwards and you can fire normally. Now, this has a special recoil reduction system, and you can see this in operation because actually the whole barreled action moves rearward within the pistol grip assembly. You can probably see it like that, and it reduces the felt recoil, which is not massive anyway, but it also gives you a little bit more consistency on target. Now, this pistol is available in 177 or 22 caliber. This is the 177. I have already had a few shots in the garden. It's quite smooth and quite nice, so I'm going to get that out and use it. The barrel and action are all steel. The body here is polymer, and you've also got a polymer grip. Now, this is quite a heavily right-handed grip, so it's not really ambidextrous. You could theoretically shoot it left-handed, but it's a lot more comfortable right-handed, and it's got quite a heavy thumb shelf as well, so you can get a very good, consistent, steady aim. You've got glowing dots in the front, red, and in the rear, green. And these sights are both windage and elevation adjustable, and it covers the adjustment in the manual. For those people who might not understand these things, I've done it before, and it's easy to learn. Now, I am going to have to now resort to my reading glasses, because the manual has got a lot of information in it, but the letters are quite small. Now, I want to show you this specifically because it is a good manual, certainly for someone who's just getting into shooting an air pistol for the first time. So, Model 25 Supercharger break barrel air pistol. Break barrel just basically means it folds in half, and that compresses a spring, click it back into position, ready to fire. I can't cock it fully, obviously, for reasons. Please read this manual before using your air gun. So there are also things like you've got grooves on the top here, so you can put a scope on it if you wanted. It would have to be a specific pistol scope, because this pistol scope has longer eye relief because it's further away from your eye than a rifle scope, which would be somewhere more like here. Pistol scopes out there. So this goes through operating the air pistol, gives you a detailed description of all the parts, what they do, some of the specifications, 177 or 22, XRS recoil reduction system, tells you about the basic parts in terms of muzzle cap, front sight, barrel, cylinder, rear sight, grip, trigger guard, trigger, safety button. So I've pretty much told you about those before already. Tells you about the safety catch. So as I showed you, the safety catch is forward for fire and rear for safe. Shows you in the positions here. Looking on the second page, tells you all about the automatic safety mechanism, what's called the anti-bear trap. Now, bear trap generally means that when you've got this cocked and it's folded down, were you to have a finger in there and it went off and it flew and flicked the barrel shut, well, that would be like a bear trap, and it will grab your finger. And essentially, because the safety catch is automatic, it automatically also locks the barrel, so it's got the bear trap mechanism on it, so it can't trap you in it like that. The Quattro trigger system is adjustable, and also goes on to tell you about the windage and elevation adjustment, and it tells you which direction to turn it depending on which way the pellets are striking. We know clockwise for up or down, clockwise for left or right, and of course you've got those excellent sights there which give you a nice simple alignment. And if we look on the next page, it tells us about how aiming as well. There's operation instructions, tells you what to do it. Do not leave the gun cocked for extended periods of time because it can affect the spring. Then it tells you about ammunition as well, different pellet styles, dome head, pointed, flat head. Now, let's be fair, this is a fairly close range plinking pistol. You're going to shoot some paper targets with it, maybe some little steel targets as well. You do need to look at the safety elements of that and make sure you are using it in the correct area. It goes through safety measures for ammunition. It also tells you about, when you've been using lead pellets all day, wash your hands, don't touch your mouth, your face, things like that. The manual also covers technical specifications, including muzzle velocity. Now, I won't take those for granted because I will be measuring them well myself when I go out shooting later with it. It tells you about the polymer, overall length 508mm or 20 inches, barrel length is 285mm or 11.2 inches, and the weight is 1.7 kilograms or 3.9 pounds. It tells you about the diameter of the optics in the rear sight and the front sight, and it also tells you, most importantly, about care, cleaning, lubrication and safety warnings. It tells you about not shooting at targets which allow ricochets, making sure you've got safe backstops, and all the kind of things that you need to know when you first start shooting an air pistol if you've no experience. Right, let's go shooting with it. I've got two types of pellets. They're both dome pellets. These are JSB Exact Diablo, and they're the 8.44 grain lighter weight ones, or I've got the Exact Heavy Diablos, which are 10.34. I love these in my 177 air rifles, but I think I might go for the lighter ones in the air pistol. So to load the pistol, keep your fingers off the trigger. You basically got to pull the barrel all the way down until it clicks securely. The safety catch will automatically reset, but keep your hands and fingers away from it and make sure you don't put anything down in that slot there, although that is what the anti-bear trap is for. The pellet then simply presses into the end of the barrel, lock the barrel closed, and then to fire, the safety catch moves forward. Obviously, with the safety catch being quite close to trigger, make sure you do it carefully. Now, some people might want to put safety glasses on. You can do that. Safety glasses are only a few pounds. They do help you if you get any pellets ricocheting or anything like that. It's probably more important when you're shooting on stony backgrounds or if you've got metal targets or anything like that. Today I'm actually shooting in a very large field and I've got nothing but 200 metres of grass behind my target, which is set up at ground level. So I'm going to zero the air pistol now and just tweak these elevation and windage adjustments to make sure it's shooting straight exactly where I want to aim. Now, if we look at the sights on here, we've got two green dots at the back and a red dot at the front, and essentially what we want to do is align those together and put them just under the base of the target. Now, there's very little recoil or anything like that. It's more of a springy twang jump from the pistol. But the trigger is actually very smooth and quite predictable in use. I've only had 4 shots out of it in total. I'm no expert at pistol shooting. I'm fortunate if I did actually shoot pistols before they were banned in '97. But essentially, I like to keep a reasonably firm grip without too much muscle stress or pressure, and I like to make sure I've got a good steady squeeze on the trigger. I might be right, I might be wrong, but that's the way I do it and the way it's worked for me. And obviously I squeeze the trigger so the brake just ever so slightly surprises me and it stops me twitching and flinching. It's actually really pleasant to shoot because the recoil on it is very linear because of that system where the actual whole gun is moving slightly within the grip. Now, shooting an air pistol is nothing like as accurate as shooting an air rifle because, of course, everything's hand supported. You've frankly got a less accurate, precise aiming solution, but the fundamentals are still there about keeping a relaxed position, stable on target, as much stability as you can, and just squeezing the trigger. I'm going to shoot a reasonable group size because it'll, eradicate those weaker shots and it'll give me an overall position of where the pellets are actually striking. Because there's no point just adjusting one shot for the next. And of course, with it being an air pistol, you've not got a huge amount of noise, you've not got a huge amount of expense in the actual projectiles themselves, so you can afford to do some shooting, blinking, and it's fun. And of course, I've just got the pellets in my back pocket. That's why I'm enjoying shooting, just relaxed. Now, I've got a huge field in the distance behind me, so I have no problem with pellets going through or leaving the property. You have to be absolutely assured that pellets are not going to leave your property wherever you shoot, and make sure there's no ricochet risk either. There are all sorts of different targets available to make sure that the pellet is fully absorbed by the target system where it goes through. So if you've got little metal plinking targets, there's usually like a little cage around them so that the pellets strike and fall within that cage. They don't ping off and shoot over people's fences. Backstops are critical. Yes, you might think these are not high powered, but the pellet can still go a long way. Simple rules of marksmanship about not pointing it at anything you don't want to shoot at, keeping your fingers off the triggers. You'll see the whole time I've been talking to you, my finger has been on the side of there, it's not on the trigger. Don't point the gun anywhere you don't want a pellet to go, essentially speaking. And certainly don't take the safety catch off or put your finger on the trigger until you're pointing in a safe direction. The smaller the target is, the harder it is to aim at as well as to hit, especially with open sights. But when you do hit it, it's quite pleasing. This is quite challenging, but very fun. And the important thing is squeezing the trigger, not snatching at the trigger. Because if you snatch at the trigger, you'll twitch the whole gun. If you squeeze at the trigger, you can maintain that steady aim. I'm only shooting at 10 meters, but it's fun. Now this particular target, it's a little bit too heavy and the power isn't quite there to flick them over, so I'm just shooting the top reset one every time. Oh, there's my first miss again. So I missed the first two, missed the last one, all the ones in the middle I did hit. I'm smiling. So to adjust elevation, you just get clicks on here, 3, 4, 5, 6. And for windage, it's just on the side there to align the dots. Now do be wary of metal targets, especially spinners and things that flick around like that. The pellet will hit it, depending on where it hits it. It might go upwards, it might go down, it might go left, it might go right. So be aware that targets like that can't be used really in gardens, because the pellet can't be guaranteed to stay within your shooting arena unless you actually put it in some kind of box to stop any pellet going up, down, left or right from it from going over a fence. I'm actually getting some quite good consistency from this. I'm just going to make a few. I'll put 5 clicks right on the sight, which will bring the point of impact right, because I'm using the rear sight. So when that goes right, the whole pistol goes right. The other good thing about safety glasses, it keeps the wind out of your eyes. Stops you blinking as much. Well, you've seen me out shooting with the gun, and I have to say it's performed extremely well. It's very nice to use. The polymer here, and it's got grippy on the barrel as well, and the shroud, so it's easy to cock, it's easy to get hold of. The option of adding a sight to it will improve the precision a little bit, but that's an optical sight, it's a lot more money, and using open sights like this is actually very good fun, and it teaches you a lot about shooting, about trigger control and maintaining a stable point of aim while squeezing the trigger to make sure you're not twitching it as it goes off by tugging at the trigger. Construction seems very durable, I'm totally happy with it, and I have to say that little bit of recoil movement there does seem to make the gun incredibly smooth to shoot. You get a little bit of spring twang off it, but that's the same as any spring piston air rifle or air pistol, and I'm more than pleased to use it. The grip is solid and tactile, the trigger feels good, and the safety catch is very easy to manipulate with that forward finger. The fact it resets it and you've got an anti-bear trap device on it makes the gun a whole lot safer. It's very important to state you should only shoot any firearm on land where you've got permission to shoot, which is suitable for it, or a club or range or something like that. It's not something you can just walk out and about with, go anywhere you want. In terms of accuracy on paper, well, you can see I did a bit of a zeroing group there when I was just sort of setting up at 10 meters, and then that's the lighter 8.4 grain pellet, and that's the heavier 10.3 grain pellet. One thing I will say is that when you're shooting an air pistol with open sights like this, it's very much down to the shooter, and it's no point saying what's the smallest groups, what's the most accurate one. It's the one that you're going to shoot the best, because the great thing is you're not shooting particularly far. I mean, 10, 15, 20 meters maximum, depending on the size of the target you're using, is a serious challenge. And the thing is, if you've got a nice plain target, you can see the pellets going through, and you can immediately compensate and assess what's going on, and, you know, train with it, enjoy shooting it. It's very good fun. I mean, I shoot rifles virtually every day of the week, and there's not really a lot I discover about myself shooting them on most occasions. Whereas with this, I enjoyed shooting it for a couple of hours, playing about with different things, and I really enjoyed it, and I think anybody who owns it would do too. It's not an expensive pistol to shoot, and you know, a tin of 500 pellets would last you a whole day, and believe me, by the time you've done with it, you'll be quite tired. I thought the gun was fairly quiet to shoot. It certainly didn't have any extreme vibration or discomfort to it, and with between 3.8 and 4.3 foot-pounds, it's well within the 6 foot-pound legal limit in the UK. It's not about power with these things, it's about the precision with which you can shoot them, and it's a superb practicing tool to really teach you patience and the mental game of shooting. The sights were easy to adjust. I found them quite easy to align, and my eyesight is not as good as it used to be. I did leave the shooting glasses on mainly because it was breezy and I just didn't want the wind in my eyes. I would wear shooting glasses with an air pistol, because if you are quite close to the targets, especially if you're using reactive targets, you can get some bounce backs. So be very careful with what types of targets you use. I would always use something that will absorb the pellet, and if possible a box around the target to totally contain any possible ricochet whatsoever, because pellets must not leave your land. Now, I weighed the trigger port and it comes in at 306 grams or 46 ounces. You can't weigh a trigger port on something like this inside, because you can't dry fire a gun like this. Any kind of spring pistol, air rifle or pistol mustn't be dry fired. So I took it outside, cocked it, loaded it as normal, and using it into the ground, I used a trigger pull gauge and made sure I got an accurate measurement for it. I think the trigger is actually quite consistent. It's got a slight two-stage feel to it, and it teaches you that important gentle squeeze while maintaining your sight picture and not twitching your hand with it. Now, most shooters can use this gun. Taller shooters, stronger shooters might even shoot it one-handed. I shot it two-handed. Smaller shooters might want to use a supporting hand, maybe shoot from kneeling down, sitting, or from elbows like that, and they'll get a great opinion of using the gun with it. Now, overall weight for those shooters comes in at 1,550 grams, which is £3, 6.7 ounces. And okay, there's not a huge amount of, certainly not painful recoil, but that weight does just dampen the recoil slightly, and that smooth spring action there, I think, is one of the superb factors of this gun. Right, well, I hope you've enjoyed that review. Please like, subscribe, comment, don't forget to click the notification bell and keep track of the regular uploads. Thank you for watching, bye for now.